So this has been very key to the research base of what we're doing. The second is a methodology called human-centered design. So again, think of the difference between the extremes, which I've painted, paint and plaque, versus really understanding what space can do to help nurture these things. And this human-centered design concept says, well, first of all, you have to understand what the needs are, what the interests are, what's going on in your market, in this case, in middle school youth. Which means, very basically, you need to hear them, you need to be creative, you need to create with them some outcomes, and then you need to deliver. At the end of the day, all of this process stuff is interesting, and we can have coffee and bagels, but at the end of the day, we've got to do something that responds to the research and responds to our active listening and going out and creating with the youth the space and the programs that will support the spark, the voice, and the relationships.
Another thing to add to the relationship piece from the Teen Voice Report that really impacted me as a parent was the importance of other adults and older kids in the lives of younger youth, and not just the dad or the mom or other family member, but they need others to encourage them with their sparks and the development of their sparks. And that's a role we as a youth development organization locally can play, as other youth organizations can play.
That's a great point. Parents are obviously key to that support. That, as many of us know, we are doomed when we're parents. And what we say doesn't mean anything if Matt says it and he's not a parent. All of a sudden it becomes, skies open. So our process has been a series of deep dives, and what that means is 3 two-day intensive sessions with our teams. Team from the McGaw YMCA, team from the YMCA the Foothills in California, team from the Milwaukee Y, and the support group from the Y of the USA. One, going into the research. Is there research that can inspire us as adults and us as the project team? What do we see that's inspiring the youth? The second is ideation. That's a new word for me, but it's okay. Let's pull it together and come up with some ideas. And the third, which will be next week for us, is trying to pull the research, our own research, the research that's out there, the macro research, how we're trying to pull all this stuff together. And there's loads and loads of information and data that we're gathering. And how do we make that data, how do we rationalize that data, how do we put that data together, implement and design some space and programs. What do we do? Interviews, 18 middle school students, and we had a team of 3 middle school students who were part of the interviewer group, so that was very, very helpful. When Emmanuel was sitting there, there wasn't just a couple of adults holding a camera out and trying to figure out what's going on, but there were other youth of peers who were kind of stimulating the conversation. And it was really, really fun. It's a little intimidating to start my interview, kind of nervous. You're going into the lion's den, 4 middle school youth on a Saturday afternoon. Inside, it's like very interesting. In-home interviews, we videotape the group interviews. The wellness deck I described, these maybe 60 or 80 photographs, images that then youth kind of picked up and said, this is what it means to me. This is a strength, as Emmanuel talked about. And then they picked up 3 cards that represented wishes. Here's what I wish I had as part of my health and well-being, part of what lights me up, and part of what I enjoy. We asked them to create a circle of influence, which is basically asking them, what are the things that impact your life? Maybe it's your folks, maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's a teacher at school, maybe it's somebody at the Y or faith community who they're involved in. What's your circle of influence, people and activities? And then what's a day in the life? Start at 6 in the morning, 9 or 10 or 11 at night, and what goes on in your life? Again, by way of getting kids to express themselves and to be heard and to really dive into what their lives are all about. Obviously, just listing a whole bunch of activities doesn't get you a lot, but when you ask questions and you say, you know, oh, you have breakfast down here. Do you eat breakfast alone? Do you eat breakfast with a sibling, with your folks? How does that work? Dinners were a topic of conversation and how that works in the home. Those things kind of brought out kind of the experience of the youth. Preliminary, very preliminary findings. Youth have expressed to us, our youth, now this is going from the macro data to the interviews that we've done. They want a place to social, they want a place to be. Hang out suggests doing, free flow, no structure. But what they said is they just want a place to be, and I think there's some difference there that we have to continue to dive into. They want an ability to express themselves and their spark. Don't confuse that with bragging or strut your stuff. They want a place where that spark is welcome, is encouraged, is celebrated, not necessarily on stage with the spotlight, but where they feel they can be themselves and where they can be with folks that they trust. And Matt had a great point. It's not just adults. I think the older youth role model, the older youth, someday I'd like to be him or her, is vitally important. We then ask, and this is pulling together loads and loads of data, how might we? We're now challenged in the implementation phase with, this is all well, swell, and good, but how might we do these things to help youth practice adulthood in meaningful ways? Give them responsibility, give them ownership, help them really be a part of what their experience is at the YMCA. Create the space, create the programs, going back to the first point that the youth feel they own, that they can change, that they can begin, that they can end, that they can morph into something else. And then meet the youth's desire for peer and adult connections. Again, go think back to that slide of spark, voice, and relationships. These are tying to those three key areas of focus. So brainstorm ideas, and these are just a few of loads and loads of ideas. And we haven't yet gotten to the point where we've narrowed down or prioritized or validated, but just some that seem to be coming up again and again. Food. Food comes up. Food. Give them food, they will come. Build it, they will come. Food, they will come. A youth investment club. Lots of talk about money. Lots. I was amazed. Would have never figured that out. I asked the question, Matt, I said, do they want to, are they like budding entrepreneurs? No. They just want to understand money, middle school. Now some have these ideas of starting businesses and stuff, but at the end of the day, they want to know a little bit about how does money work, and ultimately how can I get money, because that is an overwhelming issue with middle school. Again, it's very surprising to me. I know they want money, but middle school. Job shadow. What's it like to do a job? What's it like to be? Can I follow you around? Can I see what it's really like? Big interest. Very key that the space be flexible, because it's kind of like fashion. Middle school is think fashion or fad. What's cool? Maybe that's not even the right word. What is interesting and attractive to middle school youth today? Maybe something very different. It's purple. September 25th, we're going to paint the town purple. It's got to be read the next day. So flexibility is key. Music and drama. One of the findings that came out of this research done by the Search Institute is while sports, we think, is a real key interest with many middle school youth, arts is a huge spark. I think in many respects it's a hidden spark that perhaps we should be key in helping to nurture and finding out where's the gap between this interest in arts and culture, and music and performance and dance, and what's available to middle school youth.
Another area that isn't up here, but that was brought up by YMCA and content experts, was the outdoors, and how in urban settings it can be challenged to give kids the opportunity to camp or just learn about the outdoors, and they never get the opportunity really to camp and be out in some sort of wilderness, and how powerful that could be to open a new world to them and possibly a new spark to them, which was pretty. And we have the camping piece, the resident camping piece, that could connect in our relatively urban setting, which was an interesting piece of research.
Finally, competition. Teen, adult, let's get out there and compete with one another. Next steps. Next week is our deep dive number 3. We need to do some prototyping. We have some processes to go through in terms of the advisory group, meeting with other groups to support this. I want to mention the Tally Reese Award. As part of the Emerson Street celebration, we created an award honoring the Reverend James Tally and Robert Reese, many of whom you know, local Evanstonian who has had a huge impact on middle school youth, first African-American chair of the board. We've created a Tally Reese Award. The first presentation will be in January 2011 at our closing gala for the 125th anniversary.
Save the date.
Save the date. January 22nd. We are going out to the middle schools, to the faith communities, to the Scouts, to YOU, to other youth-serving organizations, seeking youth who have been engaged in meaningful projects that support their community. A broad range. Youth or group, correct. And we're going to collect those nominations and present the first Tally Reese Award, designed again to support and encourage and recognize Youth Spark and the accomplishments of a youth or a group of youth. Thanks, Vicki. In March, part 2, to look forward to, where we can fill you in on what we've done from today going forward in terms of program innovation for middle school youth and the design of the program space and how the space can support that innovation. And we hope to begin the design and renovations in the spring. We're trying to work it out so that we're using the time when that space is least used as the time for whatever renovations we do. Outcomes tie back to where we started. Not only develop a process, but pilot programs that support you. We'd like to use this process of human-centered design to help us innovate in other program areas beyond middle school youth, to discover their strengths, to make sure their voice is heard, and to provide leadership opportunities, both for folks to provide leadership and for the youth to lead.